Gable's life in the 1940s and 1950s highlights the invisible struggles of fame. Between war service, private grief over Carole Lombard, and the secrecy surrounding his daughter, he lived a life split between public adoration and private hardship. His marriages, health challenges, and careful management of personal relationships underscore the cost of maintaining an idealized persona for over 30 years. Before we continue, take 1 second to like, subscribe, and tap the bell icon so you don't miss more real stories like this. Clark Gable, born William Clark Gable on February 1, 1901 in Cadiz, Ohio, emerged from humble beginnings to become Hollywood's ultimate symbol of masculinity and charm. From a young age, Gable faced a harsh reality. His father left the family, leaving his mother to raise him and his siblings under challenging circumstances. Poverty shaped his early life, teaching him resilience, discipline, and a sense of self-reliance. These traits would later define not only his personal life, but also the roles he embodied on screen. Gable carried this inner strength throughout his career, though it came at a significant emotional cost. Before Hollywood fame, Gable was a natural performer. He joined community theater in Cleveland and quickly discovered an ability to command the stage. His striking presence, deep voice, and effortless charisma set him apart from other actors of the time. By the late 1920s, he moved to Los Angeles, determined to break into films. Yet the journey was far from easy. The studio system was rigid, often typecasting actors into roles that fit a specific mold. Gable, however, refused to conform completely, seeking parts that allowed him to express a balance of toughness and vulnerability, though the vulnerability was rarely visible to the public. By the 1930s, Gable's career took off. He gained attention with supporting roles in films like The Painted Desert and The White Sister, but it was his role in It Happened One Night, 1934, that cemented his stardom. The film not only won 5 Academy Awards, but showcased Gable's natural charm, wit, and undeniable screen presence. He became the epitome of the American leading man, confident, assertive, and magnetic. Audiences and critics alike were captivated, and Hollywood crowned him the King of Hollywood. Despite this meteoric rise, Gable's personal life was much more complex than the public could see. His early adulthood was marked by loss, hardship, and an unrelenting work ethic. He married Maria Franklin in 1924, but the marriage ended in divorce within a few years. Gable was deeply affected by failure and rejection, internalizing emotional struggles rather than expressing them openly. This private turmoil would later echo in his relationships with Carole Lombard, one of Hollywood's most celebrated actresses. Gable met Lombard in the mid-1930s, and their chemistry on and off screen was undeniable. Lombard was vibrant, intelligent, and shared Gable's sense of humor. They married in 1939, forming one of Hollywood's most glamorous couples. However, tragedy struck in 1942 when Lombard died in a plane crash while returning from a war bond tour. The loss devastated Gable. Publicly, he maintained his stoic persona, yet privately he was engulfed in grief, retreating from the world to mourn in solitude. This period marked the first major fracture in his double life. The man adored by millions was concealing profound sorrow behind a mask of strength. During World War II, Gable further demonstrated the tension between his public image and private self. In 1943, he enlisted in the U.S. Army Air Forces, serving as an aerial gunner and producing wartime documentaries. Though celebrated for his patriotism, the decision was deeply personal, reflecting a desire to honor Carole Lombard's memory and contribute meaningfully to a world at war. Gable faced the harsh realities of combat, witnessing death and destruction firsthand. Yet upon returning, Hollywood expected the same unshakable, charismatic star, a role he fulfilled with ease for audiences, but at a personal cost. The experiences left emotional scars that rarely surfaced in interviews or public appearances. Beyond his career and war service, Gable's private life was complicated by secrets that would remain hidden for decades. Among the most significant was his daughter with actress Loretta Young. The child, Judy Lewis, was born in 1935, but due to the stigma surrounding unwed parenthood in Hollywood, Gable never publicly acknowledged her. Young raised Judy as her own, maintaining the secret to protect both her career and Gable's reputation. This concealed aspect of his life highlights the constant tension between Gable's private emotions and the public persona he was forced to maintain. The double life that Gable lived was not born of scandalous behavior, but rather of circumstance and societal expectation. Hollywood demanded invulnerability from its male stars, and Gable, conscious of his image, complied. Weakness, grief, or vulnerability were considered unacceptable, and the man behind the legend quietly adapted, sacrificing personal authenticity for professional survival. Even friendships were carefully curated, as Gable avoided situations that could reveal emotional fragility. By the late 1940s, Gable had firmly established himself as a leading man in Hollywood. Films like Gone with the Wind, 1939, Boomtown, 1940, and Key to the City, 1950, reinforced his reputation for strength, wit, and romantic allure. Yet behind the glamour, he remained haunted by personal loss, the secrecy surrounding his daughter, and the pressures of a career built on a facade of perfection. Each accolade and film success added to the invisible weight he carried, a burden few could understand. In examining Gable's early life and rise to stardom, one sees a man shaped by hardship, ambition, and circumstance. He became a public icon, embodying ideals of masculinity and charm that captivated millions, while privately navigating grief, secrecy, and emotional isolation. This dual existence, celebrated in the limelight, burdened in private, sets the stage for the next chapter of his life, where the complexities of fame, love, and personal choices intersected in ways that few could imagine. As Clark Gable entered the 1960s, the Hollywood king faced a period of reflection and transition. Though still a respected and admired figure in the film industry, time had begun to take its toll. Decades of playing the invincible leading man had come with hidden costs: physical strain from long shooting hours, emotional weight from decades of concealed grief, and the lingering effects of earlier hardships. Yet, Gable remained dedicated to his craft, continuing to deliver memorable performances that reminded audiences why he had earned the title of the King of Hollywood. One of the remarkable aspects of Gable's later years was how he managed the delicate balance between fame, personal relationships, and privacy. He maintained a close bond with his third wife, Kay Williams, whom he married in 1955. Their relationship, though quieter than his earlier romances, provided stability and companionship. Gable also devoted attention to his children, including Judy Lewis, whose existence remained a closely guarded secret from the public. By the 1960s, Gable had perfected the art of living simultaneously in two worlds, publicly charming, privately reflective, a duality that had defined much of his adult life. Despite his careful management of private matters, his health began to decline. Years of smoking, high stress, and the demanding nature of Hollywood work contributed to cardiovascular issues. By the mid-1960s, he experienced warning signs that hinted at serious health problems. Yet, consistent with his lifelong persona, Gable rarely admitted vulnerability or sought public sympathy. He continued to work on projects with the same professionalism and dedication that had earned him international acclaim. His films during this period, including The Misfits, 1961, co-starring Marilyn Monroe, showcased not only his enduring talent, but also his ability to convey deep emotion while maintaining the strength and charisma audiences expected. The Misfits is particularly significant in understanding Gable's later years. The film, written by Arthur Miller and directed by John Huston, was a profound exploration of aging, loss, and the passage of time, themes that mirrored Gable's own life. Working alongside Monroe, Gable delivered a performance that captured both vulnerability and resilience, subtly reflecting the duality he had lived for decades. Behind the cameras, he struggled with the ongoing pressures of fame and personal grief, yet his professionalism never wavered. In many ways, this film symbolizes the culmination of his career, a masterful actor performing with honesty while concealing the inner turmoil that defined his private life. Tragically, Gable's life was cut short on November 16, 1960, at the age of 59. He suffered a heart attack in Los Angeles, leaving the world to mourn the loss of a man whose public persona had long masked a deeply private and complex life. Reports of his death highlighted his achievements and charm, but few understood the full depth of the emotional and personal struggles he had endured. The secrecy surrounding his daughter, the grief over Carole Lombard, and the sacrifices required to maintain his image were largely unknown to the public, making his passing a reminder of the hidden burdens carried by those in the spotlight. Clark Gable's legacy is multifaceted. He was, undeniably, one of Hollywood's most iconic actors, shaping the image of American masculinity in cinema. His films continue to captivate audiences, demonstrating timeless appeal and the power of charismatic storytelling. Yet, equally important is the human story behind the legend. A man who bore immense personal pain, navigated profound losses, and lived a double life to protect both himself and those he loved. The contrast between Gable's public invincibility and private vulnerability offers a lesson in empathy, highlighting the costs of fame and the emotional labor required to uphold a constructed image for decades. In reflecting on Gable's life, one sees the tension between expectation and authenticity. Hollywood demanded strength, charm, and reliability, and Gable delivered flawlessly. Behind closed doors, however, he carried grief, guilt, and secrecy, demonstrating that even the most admired figures are human, with complexities hidden from the public eye. His story reminds us that fame often comes with an invisible price, and that the individuals behind the cameras are shaped as much by what they conceal as by what they reveal. Clark Gable's influence persists not only through his films, but also through the stories of his life, the sacrifices, the secrets, and the unwavering professionalism that allowed him to thrive under impossible expectations. His journey from a boy growing up in poverty to the king of Hollywood illustrates resilience, charisma, and the enduring human struggle to reconcile private truth with public perception. Though he is gone, Gable's life continues to captivate, inspire, and offer insight into the unseen complexities behind fame and legend. Ultimately, Clark Gable's story is not simply about a celebrated actor. It's about a man navigating the impossible, balancing public adoration with private sorrow, career triumphs with personal losses, and the weight of an idealized image with the realities of a human heart. His legacy endures as a testament to the resilience required to live in the spotlight, the sacrifices demanded by fame, and the hidden truths that define even the most legendary lives.